Alright, very good morning to you. Welcome along. It's Thursday morning. It's West Ham's world and we just live in it. Certainly it's David Moyes' world. Kathleen's here. Kathleen, good morning to you.
Morning.
Shane is here. Shane,
good morning.
You were saying that you felt happy for David Moyes, joy for David Moyes.
Just I didn't expect the full-time reaction, or the reaction to Jared Bowen's goal when he goes running down the touchline, almost Mourinho-esque. You're like, this is a side of David Moyes' happiness that none of us had ever seen. And then you see his 87-year-old father being handed the medal by him afterwards and getting a couple of photographs, and would melt your heart a little bit. It's his first trophy as a manager in 25 years.
I think you'll find there was a Community Shield in there for Manchester United, wasn't there?
Was there?
I think there was.
You sure?
But yeah, there was, yeah.
So that doesn't count though, because the previous manager obviously got him to the Community Shield. That's a fair point though. Does that count?
It's not a fair point. You're 100% correct.
Yeah.
I'm being...
I thought Shay was going to say it doesn't count because it's Community Shield.
Well,
exactly.
You know what? If you were the manager that earned the right to play in the Community Shield, then you have a bit more.
Even then,
that's a bit of a stretch. But yeah,
Jared Houllier used to count it.
Well, there you go. I suppose for their little treble they had. I think if you're a West Ham fan this morning and you hadn't won a trophy since 1980, it's a pretty special night.
Oh, it's amazing.
Like that, it was just incredible. And Fiorentina, I know, a team with a lot of history as well, but the West Ham fans just were an unbelievable voice throughout in Prague last night. I'm sure there were some scenes in Prague last night as well of celebration. You couldn't but be pleased for most of them. And then you see Declan Rice pop up on the TV and you're like,
when Declan Rice signs from Manchester United, if he ever does, you're like, oh, that guy's great, what an amazing player, I love him, I love me some Declan Rice. Look at him standing up for what he believes in, not being coerced.
Stand up for what he believes in, kissing the Irish badge and moving on.
Up the Ra, he was an up the Ra guy, wasn't he?
He was, yeah. Quickly switched. But I think, generally speaking, the way West Ham went about their business last night was impressive. Kurt Zumik was off injured, changes things a little bit.
Were they not? I
thought they were quite poor for large swathes.
They were, yeah.
They're not shite.
Well, the game itself was reasonably poor.
It wasn't a classic, but like Fiorentina definitely should have been a couple of goals ahead by the time West Ham actually started getting into it.
Yeah, and their manager Italiano at the end is just he seems to be giving out about everything. I don't know exactly what his issue was. Certainly the Bowen goal was fair and square, onside, took it really, really well, cool as you like. And then you see Mark Noble, the sporting director, almost in tears afterwards as well.
So there was a video going around yesterday of a couple of West Ham fans found him out for a run, and they started jogging along beside him, beers in hand, chatting away, as you do.
Yeah. So no, from a West Ham perspective, you got to be pleased for them. I think David Moyes just, did he save his job by winning last night?
I don't know. I mean, it's very difficult for them to sack him, and he does have that yo-yo tendency, or certainly did with Everton, where they would scrape out of relegation and the next season be in Champions League contention. And so I don't know, maybe next year's a good league year.
It also, by the way, puts a certain stamp on the Europa Conference League, because I have to say, along with many others probably, when the Europa Conference League was invented, I was like, this is ridiculous, this is so stupid.
Weren't you both dismissing this yesterday, going, does it really matter? Of course it matters.
No, because I think Roma, the scenes when Roma won it last year, you're like, okay, this means so much to them, and then they go on and win or get to the Europa League final, the following year. So clearly there's development there. I think for Villa fans, I mean, you're looking at this going, this is not
for the super clubs that you support. This is not for you.
Well, it's
for the rest of Europe who like real football fans.
Sorry, I meant it from the perspective that there were so many articles yesterday talking about the legendary David Moyes and Declan Rice if they did this, and I just thought it was a bit extreme.
So now that Mark Noble, now that Bowen has scored a winner in the 90th minute, the first Englishman since the 90s to score, do you accept that he's a legend?
He's a West Ham legend.
He's a West Ham legend, of course, yeah. But the article was talking about them being legendary figures of the game, not of West Ham, of a club. I totally accept it from that perspective, but I still stand by what I said yesterday.
I think I got into it. I think I was into it more and more as the game was wearing on. I was like, this means a lot. And then when you see Moyes running down the touchline, you're like, oh yeah, this means a lot to the club.
It is an instantly iconic celebration. Yeah. Also, midweek European finals. There's a lot to be said for them.
Yeah,
especially at this time of year, I feel, as well, when there's not all that much happening anyways.
It just felt like the Champions League final is in 2 days' time, and it does not feel like it.
But that's because you're come on.
No, of course, if you're a City fan.
If Liverpool were playing, you'd be praying to the gods you don't believe in that they can somehow stuff it up. If Man United were playing it, you'd be sitting here in your Man United jocks all week. Right. The fact that it's Man City about to do a treble, you are studiously ignoring it. Let's just call it. It's true.
No, but don't. So you guys support Arsenal and Aston Villa. So don't try and tell me that you feel the build-up has been massive.
I'm going to
this week.
Istanbul tomorrow. What are you talking about?
Okay, well, fair enough for you. Maybe I'd be pretty excited. Well, that's different. If you're going to the match, if I was going to Istanbul tomorrow, I'd be thinking about it as well.
I don't know. I have to say, I feel like, Drew, you are in the minority in this. Like, normally on a Champions League build-up week, we would be like chatting about it loads. There'd be excitement, and I don't think it's just because there is a certain expectation. Again, it's never over until the final whistle, but that like City are going to win it. I feel like there just isn't the same excitement. Even there's not even the same hatred. Like, Shane's a United fan, and you should be sitting there absolutely stewing mad that City are there.
He's heartbroken. So again,
but I don't even think he is. That's the thing. I think he's just a bit like
accepting of it.
What is your collective point here? People care less about the Champions League final now than they did before.
I think it's just because of who's in it.
Well, I think that's exactly it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe because it's Saturday as well. Like maybe that plays into it.
Liverpool Real Madrid last year was
I suppose, yeah, but
everybody was talking about it because it's Real Madrid and Liverpool. I don't think anybody cares about Italian football at the moment outside of Italy. So I think the fact that it's an Italian team who we feel like are nowhere close to being the second best team in Europe. If this was Real Madrid versus Manchester City, we'd have been very interested in it all week.
Even if it was Napoli, at least there's a story there.
Fair point.
But I don't know. It just Inter feels
in fairness,
different.
if Napoli were going for a double against an English team going for a treble, then I think.
I mean, you look at the history that Inter have as well, though. Like, I feel they should be, like, there should be some credit there somewhere, but there just isn't really.
I don't think it's credit though. Like they're one of the great names of Italian and world football, like all the way back to Helena Herrera in the 60s, and the team of Brema and Klinsmann and Mateus. Like that was the peak Italia 90, post Italia 90. Channel 4 Gazzetta era, but it's just that they haven't played, like even Jose's Inter played terrible, horrible football, and this team plays slightly better football, but like I don't know. I think
it's because it's City.
It's because it's City.
But it's because it's City, and like, because even as United fans could appreciate it, like when Liverpool win the Champions League, they're playing good football. Jurgen Klopp has earned them the right to win the Champions League. When Real Madrid win the Champions League, it was brilliant to watch. And yet City it just feels like a procession because they're so good.
Well, maybe it's the too much possession thing that everybody's getting bored of. Maybe they're the most common of European football, are they?
Possibly, yeah. Possession, keep the ball. But there is a style and substance to City as well, and yet still there's just something about it. Maybe it's Pep. I mean,
you don't like Pep?
I don't like Pep.
Why not?
I used to like Pep, and now he just really pisses me off. Listening to him pisses me off. I'm like, oh, please stop. So seeing Pep with big ears on Saturday night was like, will break a lot of people's hearts. Not least myself, but
I think you're going to get sucked into it. I think if it's 0-0 after 70 minutes, you'll be like, come on, Inter, come on.
No, but I that's not what I'm saying for me anyways. Like, I'll definitely watch it. I'll get involved in it, if so long as it's not like 4-0 City after like half an hour or something. I'll totally watch it and enjoy it. I'm just saying that I don't feel the same like build up to it this week, or the same excitement to it that I would normally feel about a Champions League final. I don't even feel like.
And what are you putting that down to?
A complete blasé feeling towards City, to be honest. Like, I don't have I should, after this season, should hate them, like, but I don't. Whereas if it was United, Liverpool, God forbid Spurs ever get to the top league again, I just, for some reason, and maybe it's because in my living memory, City kind of went from nothing to absolutely unbeatable. So like there was never even really an and it was at the same time where Arsenal were going whoop. There's never been any opportunity to, I suppose, build that sort of hatred or care about them. And in the men's game anyways, I would feel a lot more if it was City Arsenal in the women's game. All bets are off.
I do think the fact that they played such amazing football, the games against Real Madrid in particular, the two-legged tie, the first game in particular was so good, and then the second game they were so amazing. is essentially the whole point about sports washing. It really works. Nobody's that really worked up about the fact that City could easily just win this game 2-0 with a clinical performance, and they could be 2-0 up after half an hour, and then the next 60 minutes will be them playing beautiful keep ball, and the fans going ole ole, and maybe some of the Italian fans rioting afterwards. Who knows? But that's the whole point of the experiment, is to wield your power and not be noticed while you do it.
And you need likeable players, don't you? Like,
I love Grealish.
Yeah, Grealish. I think people like Grealish, but outside of Grealish, are there any players in that City team you're like, I'm happy for you to win the
I'm very happy for Kevin De Bruyne.
I was going to say De Bruyne is the one that came to mind.
I've fallen in love with Gundogan this season.
Yeah, well,
he's like a Roy Keane, Roy Kent clone. It's like, wow, how did this happen?
What a mixture.
What a combo.
No, maybe. I think for Grealish's sake, a lot of people want to see him win, but there's just this acceptance that Grealish is going to win 3 or 4 Champions Leagues in his career if he stays at City. Like, this City team are so dominant now, aren't they?
I don't know about that. I mean, the Barcelona team with Leo Messi in it barely scraped to. Did he get 4 in the end? Like, absolutely not. I ain't buying that. Like, and also they might not be in the Champions League next season or the season after. We shall see.
Potentially not.
It's because it's Man City asterisks, says Michael Hill in the YouTube comments. You can get onto YouTube, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and leave a comment if you want to get involved in the conversation this morning. Fans of the Super Club need to understand most football fans don't get to celebrate winning a trophy very often, if ever, so it should be savoured. I think this is a fundamental point in all this too, right? That, like, when Man United screwed the FA Cup by going to play in the Mickey Mouse World Club Championships that they did all those years ago and removed the last bit of lustre that the FA Cup had, it kind of was like it's a minor trophy, you know, and that whole like, we only win leagues, we only celebrate leagues, it's a minor trophy. It was like, well, actually winning the League Cup was a massive deal for loads of clubs who could do it, and winning the FA Cup was all-time sensational moment. And maybe Leicester getting relegated and Wigan getting relegated, having post won the cup, kind of takes the sheen off their cup wins a little bit, but those fans felt alive.
But that suggestion that super clubs can't, like, Manchester United fans enjoyed winning the League Cup this year, and certainly the players.
Yeah, now you did because you're desperate. But like, when you were winning leagues, you're like, the trophy's in the corner, no one's celebrating. We're cool.
I do remember when Arsenal won the FA Cup. The amount of United fans were like, "Ooh, look at you go! Aren't you great?"
I
also do love the fact that I've been slightly included in the Super Club debate, even though this is the first season in like many years that Arsenal have actually achieved.
Yeah, welcome back.
Well, apart from the FA Cup.
Welcome in.
No, I know. Like, if the Europa Conference League was around at the time where Arsenal were finishing outside the top 4 and in those sort of places, then and they did a run to it, absolutely would have been delighted. Like, I actually felt more upset when they crashed out of the Europa League this year than I did whenever they lost the Premier League title race, because one felt a little bit more.
Well, I think they had a chance of winning that.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. And I totally accept that. And I'm not doing down on any West Ham fans. I've actually, a lot of my very good friends from London are all West Ham fans. A lot of them were at the game last night, and it was just Instagram videos of them crying, of them in pubs in London jumping up and down in tears, and couldn't have been happier for them. I was just saying that I thought that to elevate those players to legends of the game was a bit much, but I totally understand how much it would mean for people that are supporting the club.
City have turned the Champions League into a Farmers League, says Boyce. This is the thing that Haaland scoring 5 goals in a match in the Champions League, you're like, this shouldn't be possible. This should not be possible for a player or team to do this. There's an element of that,
what?
It's great. It's great.
And does incredible thing that no one else has ever done. You shouldn't be allowed to do that. You're too good. No, I'm not having this.
The Champions League. What? The Champions League should be too good for.
I'm enjoying this too much. Stop it.
I certainly wasn't enjoying it too much.
Come on, what are you talking about? It's not a Farmers League. That's arrant nonsense. Absolute nonsense.
The early rounds of the Champions League are Farmers League. The group stage has turned into something that is not what it once was. You used to get unbelievable matches.
When did you become such an old man, Shane? What happened to you?
It frustrated me. I used to love the Champions League.
The Champions League is still great. The Champions League is still absolutely, it's the peak of world football. We all know this. It's the best quality football over a sustained period of time.
It gets good at the quarterfinal, semi-final stage, possibly. Same as the All-Ireland Football Championship.
In recent years, it's actually been decent in the group stages. There's been loads of teams trying to play good football, and there have been many upsets at various stages. Was it this season or last season that Real Madrid were in danger against one of those Eastern European teams in Celtic group? They were 1-0 down at half time. And also, the Real Madrid Celtic game was brilliant, absolutely brilliant, when Ange went at it and they were holding their own for 70 minutes. Look,
I just remember feeling breathless throughout that whole thing that they were actually going to get a result.
What does everybody want?
Like more competitive.
You want TikTok. You want an endless TikTok parade of 7-second.
So am I too old?
Stuff.
Am I too old or am I too young? What is it?
Well,
I'm too old a second ago. Now I'm into TikTok. Which is it? Come on. I'm not even on TikTok.
It turns out that a bunch of middle-aged people have been TikTok's biggest users and adopters in over the last 6 months. Anyway, we digress. Nobody cares about it because everybody knows it's going to be a walkover, says Shane. And Shifty Lad asks, who has been the most successful London club this year?
Most successful London club?
Good question. Is it Arsenal getting back into the Champions League? Top 4 finished. Bit of a title challenge. Ultimately a swoon in the semi-finals or quarter-finals of the Europa League. Quarter-finals. Or is it West Ham who barely scrape out of the relegation struggles and managed to win, in fairness, the third tier European trophy?
Well, so this is, I'm going to just support my argument even more here, but I think it's Arsenal, because Shifty Lad asked what's the most successful London club, and by club standards, Arsenal came third in the WSL as well. They got Champions League despite the fact that half their team was absolutely done. They were one match off getting to the Champions League final, apart from...
You don't get a special prize for getting beaten in semis though. There's no third place.
No, but in terms of...
Arsenal fan we're talking to.
I know, but
they have 2 trophies.
Grandfathering in a few rules here.
2 trophies between the 2 teams as well. If you're comparing the seasons, West Ham in the WSL came 8th. They went on. They didn't win a game this year until the second last round of the league, I think. So technically,
the women's team didn't reach their targets either this season.
Yeah, but look at the injuries they had. I mean, literally 6 of the starting
everybody
team
gets injured. This is
not everyone gets injured.
Every sport, there's always injuries.
But you
for
don't.
all the main teams.
You don't get Meadham and Leeds. I understand that.
Sorry, no. You do not get the levels of injuries that Arsenal had this season every year.
Apparently teams do.
Teams do, but I think it still should be counted as impressive. Katie McCabe getting into the Champions League team of the season as voted by UEFA technical observers, and also getting WSL goal of the season.
Great goal, by the way.
Katie McCabe had a great season. I will grant you that.
I'd still rather be a West Ham fan at the end of the season. Do you know?
To go to a cup final and win?
Yeah. Lift the trophies. West Ham fans are going to remember that. Was it Barry Bonds? See the West Ham captain in 75 and 80 when they won the FA Cups. Bobby Moore when they won the previous cup before that. So only 2 West Ham captains before Declan Rice have ever lifted a trophy.
I think Declan Rice is silly enough to use the atmosphere and emotion of the moment to sign a new deal.
Well, he was I was reading the quotes afterwards and I listened to his interview after the match, and he's like, obviously he wants to celebrate in the moment, but he said at the moment there's a lot of speculation going on about my future. There is interest from other clubs, but ultimately I still have 2 years left at West Ham. I love this club. I love playing for this club. There hasn't been nothing yet. My focus is playing for West Ham at the moment. That's not him saying I'm staying, but it's certainly not him not saying that either. The fact that he even was at pains to point out I have 2 years left. And maybe he's just trying to get the bigger money, but
trying to get the best deal possible for the club, and the fans are like, yeah, good man Declan, talking the price back up after Moyes talked the price down.
But is there not a universe where Declan Rice stays?
I don't think so. Is there?
I don't know. I just felt, I don't know, maybe I'm reading too much into his post-match interview, but because obviously he's heat of the moment and all the rest, but he certainly sounded in the moment that he wanted to certainly have a think about it. Little whispers between himself and Moyes after the match as well, waiting for the trophy ceremony and presentation. So I still think he's going to leave, probably to Arsenal, but certainly the comments last night caused me a little
Well, if he
pause.
is on the verge of leaving, it is kind of the sort of thing as well that, you're soaking in the moment, you're thanking the fans, you're talking about how much the club means to you, how much it has meant for your career, why it has got you to this place, and then you go off and sign a nice big shiny contract.
He's playing you like a fiddle, Shane.
Possibly. I fell for it. But
just a comment that I want to respond to here. It says, tell that American girls stick to baseball and other American sports. I get this comment all the time that I am American, and I would just like to say, I used to waitress in a cafe in Sligo, and American tour buses would come in and be like, oh, how long have you been living in Ireland?
Oh,
really?
It's just the Sligo twang, that's it.
Because you're close to America over in Sligo.
Exactly, that's it, last stop.
I blame it for all my family being from the north, and I have a weird Sligo northern twang, but I've actually never even been to America, so
Oh wow.
yeah. Thanks
Imagine how the homecoming that you'll feel when you get there.
Yeah.
Oh, these are my people.
Well, it was funny because whenever I was on ESPN, the Americans they'd be like, it's Kathleen McNamee from Ireland.
Oh yeah.
We can't understand her, so we put some subtitles down for you.
That's amazing.